Digital artwork by a relatively unknown American artist known as Beeple has sold at Christie's for nearly $70 million.
Now, this makes him the third most valuable living artist behind Jeff Koons and David Hockney.
Okay, who is this guy?
I think the thing that is lost in that sale was that I was doing this work for 20 years before this. I'd already been creating work since like 1999, sort of like freshman year of college. So I went to school for computer science and pretty quickly realized I was spending all my time just making, art things. And so it was just like, well, I'm just gonna like get through the degree and then try and get whatever job and just keep making art. And so I got a job doing web design at a small company in Wisconsin. It was very easy. And so I had hours each day to do whatever I wanted. And there was a bunch of things kind of like leading up to this.
So for 14 years, you make these everydays.
So the everydays are a picture that I've done start to finish. I started doing a render every day.
Never sold any of them, correct?
I was selling prints a little bit through sort of like very cheap services where it's sort of like you can go on here and print off one of my prints for $14,
Yep. Okay.
And I don't do anything, and then I just get 6 cents.
So that's happening, and then
I was slowly kind of like gaining followers. And so when the NFT thing started to become popular, all of them started to sort of like come to me and be like, you gotta look at this, like check this out. I think this would be like, good for you or whatever. And it took a while. It clicked one day.
Did you sell any NFTs before the Christie sale?
Yeah. So that's what kind of like set up the Christie sale, and maybe a lot of people sort of like don't understand. Politics is Bullshit was the first NFT that I did about 2 weeks after learning of NFTs. That was an edition of 100 that we gave away for $1. And then I had another sort of like drop a month later where I sold like $3.5 million worth in a weekend.
And then Christie's comes to you and said, let's sell the first 5,000 every days.
Well, they said, let's sell whatever. And I just so happened to have hit 5,000 days 2 weeks before that. So that's where I got like super lucky with like that too. A lot of people, I heard like a lot of, people writing. I just gathered up a bunch of stuff on my Instagram, or this is just, my sketchbook that I just scanned all the pages in. And it's like, no, this project had a very definitive start date and very definitive like rules in terms of like how they're done and sort of like when they're done. They're done each day, and sort of like I don't release 2 in a day, and sort of like I don't bank them up. I don't sort of like not release one if I don't like it or I'm sick or whatever. It's got very specific rules that have been consistent throughout that 14 years. I wanted to get better at drawing. And so I saw an illustrator in the UK named Tom Judd who did a drawing every day. And I thought that was a really cool way, an interesting way to sort of improve sort of this skill. And so I started doing a drawing every day and scanning it in and just uploading it to my sites.
It's physical drawing. You weren't even thinking about computer stuff.
It was sort of in the context of the computer, like because I would scan things in and sort of like, use the computer as well. But yeah, I wanted to get better at like physical drawing. And so after a year of doing that, I realized I got a lot better, but I was still, very bad. I had always wanted to learn a 3D program. And so I was like, well, I wonder if I could, continue doing this sort of like everyday thing, but instead of drawing, I'm going to do 1 render a day using this like program, which nobody had sort of like done and nobody was kind of like doing back then. I learned the program very fast because it really just tricks you at the end of the day. The everydays really just tricks you into working a lot more. The days where you kind of come home and you're like, oh, I'm super tired. And it's like, no, 1 more hour. Still doing them. Throughout each year, I've kind of like changed the focus of what I've wanted to learn. In that sense, there's kind of this duality between it being these individual artworks and being the part of this one giant overarching project.
What was your expectation of what you thought it could achieve?
So what's crazy at that time when Christie's talked to me, and I knew sort of immediately kind of when the opportunity came up that it's like, oh, this could be big with like Christie's, because that was like everybody in the space was sort of like, oh, when there's a sale with like Christie's or Sotheby's, that's going to be a massive validation. But at that time when they asked me, no NFT had ever sold for $1 million. I had the record at 700,000 or whatever. And so it was like, oh, maybe this could be the first NFT that sells for $1 million. Like, and then, very quickly over the course of the next, 2 or 3 weeks, like people just started saying these ridiculous predictions. And people from Forbes suddenly are like, oh, $50 million. And it's like, what are you like talking about? $50 million? Like, and then other people are like, yeah, that seems right. And it's like, what is it? Like this, it ramped up very quickly where it's like, how is people coming up with these numbers and then everybody's just like agreeing with these numbers? Like, it was, yeah, very bizarre. The amount of sort of like opportunities, but also the amount of people trying to like make a quick buck off of me is certainly another thing that is, yeah,